Welcome to the Mississippi River, the largest river system in North America at 2,350 miles long, or 3,780 kilometers from Lake Itasca, Minnesota at its head to the port of New Orleans on the Gulf of Mexico. Our cruise will take us by many historic places, sites, bridges, and rivers here in Minneapolis. We will first head downstream to the Upper Mississippi River Gorge National Park. The Washington Avenue Bridge, also known as the University of Minnesota Bridge, carries County Road 122 of the same name across the Mississippi River and connects the east bank and the west bank portions of the forest. The Upper Mississippi River Gorge National Park teems with wildlife of all sorts. The river contains over 123 species of fish, including catfish, river carp, walleye, and bass, as well as a full variety of small sport fish such as crappie, bluegill, and perch. Of these, only 59 species have ever migrated north of the falls. In addition, there are 38 species of river clam mussels that help clean the water. There are over 60 species of mammals that call the river home. Deer, coyote, red fox, muskrat, beaver, rabbits, down to the smallest field mouse and snakes thrive in the abundant wilderness of this unique national park. Overhead, the river is a major migratory flyaway in the spring and fall for over 360 species of birds, including bald eagles, peregrine falcons, great-billed herons, and osprey, to name but a few. Birds, mammals, fish, wildlife, trees, water, and sensitive plants, successfully combined with the requirements of recreational, commercial, and nutritional demands of a great metropolitan complex of nearly 2 million people to make the Upper Mississippi River Gorge National Park not only a treasure, but a truly remarkable area. The docks and building to the left is the University of Minnesota rowing team, a program that has distinguished itself throughout the world over the last 50 years. From its humble beginnings with one boat and trailer, the program has come a long way. It's now housed in a $4.5 million modern boathouse, complete in 2007 here on the River Flats, complete with an indoor rowing team that gives rowers the ability to practice strokes even in winter. The program has produced 5 intercollegiate national championship titles and is a resource for many of those who aspire to compete in the Olympics. The Bridge of 3994 is an ordinary steel bridge that spans the Mississippi River between the Cedar Riverside area and the University of Minnesota campus area. It was built in 1964, although it is an uninspired girder bridge design when compared to other Mississippi River bridges in the area. It does carry more vehicles in the state, about 167,000. With 125-foot long, 140-foot box fabricated in Gary, Indiana, and transported to the Mississippi River by barge in October of 1863. The bridge is 6 lanes. Bridge after its gifted designer, who died during its construction, carries Franklin Avenue over the Mississippi River. It is another in a series by the Ulster Design Group of the day that features powerful but gracefully sweeping arches. It is known as a reinforced concrete open spandrel arch structure and was completed in 1820. Its overall length is 1,055 feet, with a clearance over the water at 88 feet. It was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1878. On rare calm days, when the water is like a mirror, the arches reflect in the water with the undeniable appearance of a large cat's eye. On those days, it's kind of spooky to sail through them. The stony piers to the original bridge, built made of limestone from the nearby cliffs of the river in 1889, can still be seen near the main piers of the current bridge. This portion of the River Gorge reveals the growing presence of over 50 American bald eagle nests, 116 great blue heron and osprey rookeries. The eagles are often spotted throughout the day, but more predominantly in the late afternoon. Evidence of their presence are the large dead branches and semi-open areas along the bluffs that have had their bark removed by the powerful claws of these magnificent raptors. Why is the water brown? You have read Huckleberry Finn about the muddy Mississippi or the mighty muddy, but in this stretch of the main channel we're traveling, there is in fact no mud. As you can see for yourself, the river banks and therefore the bottoms are all clean natural sand, created from 10,000 years of erosion with the sandstone ledge of the falls as it retreated northward from St. Paul to where they are now. As you know, sand-bottom lakes are famous for their clarity and self-cleaning property. So why is the river still brown? Well, about 30% of the color comes from microparticles of sand that float into water. Sunlight refracts off of them, gives off a brownish cast. The other 70% is caused by tannin, and is naturally occurring in harvest when the paint, leaves, bug, and each color into the water. You see this often in the fall, when a leaf is falling on the sidewalk overnight. When you remove it, you can see the brown silhouette of the leaf on the concrete that washes off with its rain. We're proud of our river. Thousands use it for fishing, swimming, boating, and of course, we drink it too. The removal of tannin for drinking is done by simply finer filtering and coloring out. It remains one of the finest natural sources of drinking water in the country. The short line bridge is a truss-metal railroad bridge that was first developed in the 1870s. Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Paul, and Pacific Railroad. The name short line comes from the Milwaukee Road construction of a shorter, more direct connection between St. Paul and Minneapolis. As railroad traffic became less important in the latter part of the 20th century, the Milwaukee Road gradually abandoned several of its lines in the area. However, the bridge is still occasionally used by the Minnesota Commercial Railway to service the giant grain elevators along Hiawatha Avenue to the west. The twin cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul have competed both politically and economically since they were founded, and the Mississippi River has not escaped that competition. In the middle 1800s, St. Paul was the head of navigation of the great river in that era. Between the two cities, the river was too shallow to support river traffic. An 8-mile-long section of rocks and rubble left by eroding falls prevented the riverboats from going any further north than Fort Snelling, just before present Ford Lock and Dam number 1 behind us. Local leaders dreamed of taming the river and bringing river navigation to Minneapolis to get the rich bounty of products the city was producing. In 1857, a local judge named Bradley Meeker organized a group of businessmen to build a 400-foot lock and a 14-foot high dam on the Mississippi River at this location to create a pool deep enough to support large traffic. A financial panic, civil war, and Reconstruction got in the way of its beginning. Local politics also stalled the project another 20 years until finally, the invention of hydropower at Niagara only served to add to the debate. Both St. Paul and Minneapolis wanted the hydropower from this section of the river. A compromise was struck. They settled instead of a two lock and dam configuration. Lock and dam number 1 would be at the location of the current 4 lock and dam 1, and lock 2 was planned for our present location. You may be able to spot the old mooring bullets just above the water to the east near the island named after Bradley Meeker. Construction finally began in 1899, and this lock and dam number 2 opened first in 1907. Work then continued on lock and dam number 1 that was about half done at the time. Both were low water dams with a waterfall of about 14 feet. The hydropower question was raised again in 1909, but the two low water dams could not support hydropower generation, and industry was pushing Congress for the 9-foot channel in this area. A decision was made to rebuild lock and dam number 1 as a high water dam and add the hydropower capabilities as it is today. The hydropower was sold to investors, a deal that Henry Ford took profitable advantage of. The high water dam would have the side effect of flooding the newly opened lock and dam number 2 to prevent the submerged dam contamination as the top right was blasted off. As a result, lock and dam number 2 was in operation for only 5 years. What is structure named after the Bradley Meeker was then promptly forgotten and seen today only by traveling the low water portion of the river. Spoke about around northbound up the river.
Now off the right-hand side of the boat. You can see the ballers there just sticking above the water line. That is where they were trying to barge up and down on the lock. Those barges, the majority of them were hauling grain to and from the south about 6 feet tall. When those barges were laden down with grain, they actually sat pretty low in the water, and the river channel had dredged out or set through. If you look off the left-hand side of the boat, you see the white sand beach there. That is not naturally occurring beach. That is dredged spoil that what they dug up off the bottom of the river and they dumped it on the shoreline. It's actually a direct representation of what the upper Mississippi River bottom looks like. Right here we're running right about 13 and a half feet of water. So 15 feet below the whole boat, well, that's beautiful white sand.
Directly at is the lower St. Anthony Falls lock and dam. The lock is that open chamber to the left. The filling and draining the water in this chamber. vessels are able to bypass the 25-foot-high falls ahead of us. The lock is 56 feet wide by 400 feet long and contains 6 million gallons of water full. The rate of filling and range is about 750,000 gallons per minute. This is done by gravity alone. There are no pumps involved, just as you would when you let the water out of your filter. The water is drained via internal chambers at the base of the lock walls. We will enter this lock and secure ourselves to the lock wall for the duration of our lives. In addition to the lock, Brookfield Renewable Power has recently completed a $35 million hydroelectric installation to the dam immediately to the right of the lock that generates 10 megawatts of renewable electric energy from falling water that is sufficient for over 7,000. Completed in 1963, the St. Anthony Lock Sewage Mitigation Event over St. Anthony Falls and Upper St. Anthony Falls, and it creates a navigable pool for our industrial port of Minneapolis further upstream. There's a total elevation change of 850 feet between Minneapolis and New Orleans, and about half of that, or 413 feet, happen between Minneapolis and St. Louis. Now, the first 3 locks here in Minneapolis consist of the Upper St. Anthony, the Lower St. Anthony, and the Ford Lock number 1, that is located about another 5 miles down the stream. The total elevation change of these locks is 117 feet, or about 1/4 of the elevation between here and St. Louis, Missouri. From St. Louis to the Gulf of Mexico, there are no locks and dams on the Mississippi, meaning the last 450 feet of elevation is all downhill. Interestingly, passage through all the locks on the Mississippi is free of charge, whether you're a 9-foot kayak, a 100-foot dinner boat, or a 400-foot barge in tow.
See you soon. Come back soon.
Very good.
That it utilizes LNG, liquid natural gas, to make one of the cleanest burning power plants in the U.S. It emits virtually 0 amounts of sulfur and mercury. Now ahead, certainly one of the most beautiful bridges in Minneapolis, is you see the Pillsbury Mill situated adjacent to St. Anthony, Maine. Completed in 1881, the mill held the title of the largest flour mill in the world for 40 years.
As we just start to make our turn here to the back of the lower lock, off the bow of the boat, and we come over to the right-hand side, you can see into the lock chamber of Upper St. Anthony Falls. Unfortunately, that was closed in 2017, given the further invasion of silver carp up the Mississippi River. So this is pretty much the dead end for any commercial traffic headed northbound on the Mississippi River. If you can put your boat on a trailer or carry it on your back up and around the lock, you can keep on headed up. But this is the dead end for us here.
continue our turn back to the lower lock, you can pick out the Washburn A Mill featuring the gold medal flour sign on top. The A Mill was the second largest flour mill of 9 original mills in this area and is now on the National Register of Historic Places. The Washburn Crosby Company is the original company of today's General Mills and the founders of our local WCCO radio. The call letters of the station stand for Washburn Crosby Company. The original mill was built in 1874, but was destroyed in a massive explosion in 1878 caused by a spark that ignited the airborne particles of flour, killing 14 workers. The mill was rebuilt, but again, in 1972, another fire resulted in the destruction that you see now. Since then, it's been rehabbed into a performance and banquet facility for high-end corporate events and receptions. That large, modern blue building is the Guthrie Theater, named after its founder, Sir Tyrone Guthrie, and is nationally recognized for its theater performance, production, and educational facilities. It opened in July of 2006 and houses 3 theaters for the performance of classic and contemporary venues. It also has an exciting 178-foot cantilevered bridge overlook called the Endless Bridge to the Mississippi. Cantilever means and supported on one end only.
As we make our way right here into the lock on the last light post closest to us on our right hand side, there's a wall view of the light post drift right underneath them. You'll get good photo opportunity to see what's happening.
Mom, there's an eagle.
Now, we will re-enter the lower lock that will drop us back into the Upper Mississippi River Gorge National Park for the remainder of our trip. The locks are operated by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers 18 hours a day at no cost to the vessels that pass through them. Because every boat is required to tie off in the locks due to the often extreme winds and currents, you will notice that we secure it to a floating bollard system that is nothing more than a large steel fishing bobber with a pin on the top that we can drop the line over. Once secured, we will remain tight to the walls of the lock and float safely up or down with a change of elevation.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
Of the 29 locks on the Mississippi River, they are numbered from north to south, starting at St. Anthony Falls and ending just north of St. Louis, Missouri. Do you know the number of the last lock? The obvious answer would be 29, and of course, you would be wrong. Because most of the locks in the Mississippi River were completed and numbered before 1939, the building of Upper and Lower St. Anthony Falls locks in the early 1960s presented a problem of identification. Instead of renumbering all of the locks, the first 2 locks at the falls were simply named without numbers. Thus, the Ford lock is number 1, and the last lock is number 27.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Take care.
Thank you.